We have a very strong cooperative in Jersey called the Jersey Milk Marketing Board. We've been in existence since 1955. And at that time, there were 1,000 milk producers in the island with lots of very small herds. Now, today, we have 20 milk producers. We look after about 2,750 cows in the island, milking cows. And we currently supply just over 14 million litres of milk to the dairy, 14.3 million litres to the dairy each year. The prime responsibility of the cooperative is to regulate milk supply. We're in a tiny island. It's very important that we have enough milk for our local population to drink. And in order to ensure that we've always got enough, we have to slightly overproduce. And years ago, that overproduction was about 10% of milk intake, and that used to be processed into what we call commodity milk products. And because we live in a little island south of England and the British Isles, it's very expensive to produce milk in Jersey, and to export it to the UK is a very expensive stretch of water to cross. So anything that went into a commodity product most probably meant that we were losing money. Then in 2009, we moved our dairy from an old site to a new site, which is right alongside our breed society, the RJ at home. So we are like a centre of excellence for dairying in the island. We're in the countryside. We work very closely side by side, and we now have a modern dairy, and 25% of our milk supply into the dairy goes into export products. We add value. Add value is everything about what we do, and we are selling dairy products to the UK, and we sell dairy products to Hong Kong, South Korea, a little bit to Japan, and that's a growing market for us. Because we regulate milk supply, each farm has a quota, and that quota is regulated by the board. And when the dairy wants more milk, and we're growing milk supply at the moment in the last 10 years since we've been to the new dairy, when they want more milk, we have an allocation of extra litres to all our farms that goes through an independent process.
And it's all the farmers have the same amount of quota, or it's depending on the farm?
It depends on the farm. And when we allocate more quota, it depends on whether that farm is going to invest. It depends on the historical record of meeting quota, whether if you've been below quota, then you don't have quite such a strong chance for more. It depends on the capability of that farm to produce more litres. We don't want to give more quota to someone and they can't do it. And it also depends on family succession, because we're only 20 of us at the moment. In a couple of years' time, we'll be down to 15 milk producers. And it's absolutely essential that we have a long-term milk supply. So long-term milk supply, our members of our cooperative are generally independent family farms. They're either second, third or fourth generation. And we need that continuity for the long-term future. Because if we don't supply enough milk for the island, we haven't got a cow in our island home. So there's different dynamics working for us. Even we're in a very, very small marketplace, there are different dynamics that work in Jersey. And so I use the phrase that we are just custodians of the breed. We have this really, really long history. Obviously, we own our cows, and we're very proud of that. But every generation in the island is looking to hand the island herd on to in a better, a more quality environment than the previous generation. So having young people come in, and we've got a lot of young producers coming in now, is very, very exciting for us. And they're excited because we sell our dairy produce to the other side of the world. And you get a buzz out of that in Little Island. We can feel isolated at times. But when we have regular meetings and the dairy management team said, we've got another customer in the Far East or whatever, we're getting that naturally gives people some excitement.
I know that there was an impact in the herds of the island after you allowed it semen from outside. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yes. When we introduced when we changed the law in the island's government to allow us to do this, which was a very big debate in our state's assembly, when that was allowed and the semen eventually came in, a lot of people were very excited about that this was a huge opportunity, and we 10 years later, we are now evaluating exactly what the benefits of this are. And from my own personal point of view, we have seen milk yields increase between 10 and 15% on my own herd, 10 to 15% per cow. And that's a big jump there, a huge opportunity. But we've seen perhaps more open frame cows. We've seen cows that are a little bit more angular, and we've got cows. The island herd now has much better udder texture. That's one of the things that I've noticed personally in terms of using international genetics. We were very fortunate in 2008 in the bulls that we could use. That was just at a time globally there were some, what we now regard as some quite famous bulls that were available. There was Action, there was Sultan was a very good bull that was used, DJ May from Denmark, and there were many others. But those were ones that really stood out at the time. And it was that first cross with our traditional island breeding that those and many other bulls, that first cross produced some really nice animals in that first instance. And of course now we're on third and fourth generation of international genetics. But just a word, you asked a moment ago about the purity, because we have a responsibility in the island. I mentioned that we were like the guardians of the breed in our lifetimes, but we have to take decisions that are going to be in the long-term interests of the island cow in her island home. So with the RJNHS made a rule that the bulls that we allowed to come into the island had to be 7 generations pure and no known other ancestry. Mm-hmm. And that, I think I'm right in saying, is the highest measure of purity around the world. And I think that's very, very important. And the reason I say that is because when we go and market our milk around the world, that's the first thing we tell people. We are the home of the breed. Purity is absolutely sacrosanct for our marketing of our milk supply. And I think it's so important that those two things are joined together. So at our dairy, all the cows on our farms have to be registered with the Jersey Herd Book, and all our cows have to be milk recorded once a month. So we've got huge amount of data.
This is government law or
no? This is cooperative law.
Okay.
This is the cooperative that makes these decisions. And yes, government are aware of this, but government want to see the industry looking after the cow for the long term. Our cow in our island is our national emblem. It's part of the island's, what we call part of the island's DNA. And whilst there are only 20 herds in the island, people look to make strong connections with the Jersey cow, and I get very proud, and all of us are very proud that we are a financial services island in terms of a global perspective. And when people go round from the island actually selling financial services, which is not the most exciting thing to do, to be able to, when you're in Hong Kong, to actually hold up a carton of milk and saying, by the way, this came from our cows and our, that's all. I use this phrase, it's about flying the flag for the island. So it's pride. The island is very proud of her cow, and we as milk producers and members of the cooperative are very proud of what we do to showcase the island, promote the island through our cow.